appointed hour, I'll call our commission to order. Can we have the roll call?
Yes. Tripp here.
Here.
Ellen Sheridan.
Here.
Dr. Ruth Cox.
Here.
Jim Bisbee is excused. Christian Evans.
Here.
George Brake.
Here.
Peggy Broadway.
Here.
Joe Klotz.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I call for a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. So let me go out there and read to these people out there. I guess you all don't have
Need to hear me read it all over again.
Just please be loud. Please be loud enough for the camera to hear you too.
Okay. All right.
We go read the thing.
So I'm talking loud so the camera can hear me. So I'm reading to you all about what we're going to do today. The Historic Preservation Commission is a public commission appointed by the City of New Bern's Board of Aldermen and is responsible for preserving and safeguarding New Bern's locally designated historic districts, downtown and riverside, based on U.S. Department of Interior standards, state standards, city ordinances, and New Bern's historic guidelines. Two of the major tasks of the HPC include approving applications for certificate of appropriateness and preventing demolition of historic structures due to neglect. The HPC holds a quasi-judicial hearing on an application for a certificate of appropriateness. The Commission hears sworn testimony and evidence provided by the applicant, by parties who receive notice of the hearing, and by others who can justify that they have relevant evidence and are directly affected by the application. The Commission cannot consider comments based on personal likes or dislikes, hearsay, or personal opinion that cannot be directly related to specific historic guidelines. Likewise, commissioners shall refrain from stating personal opinions, personal likes or dislikes, or hearsay during a hearing. The Commission's decision on application is based solely on testimony and evidence presented at a hearing that directly relates to the historic guidelines. So, are you going to swear in people one by one, or do you want them to all come now?
We might as well get as many as possible at once.
Okay, so everybody who intends to testify, you need to come here and sign in and say the oath. Then I'll say some other things to you.
So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people here. Do you swear to tell the truth to the best of your knowledge? They all affirm. All right,
Good.
so please sign here then. First print your name and then sign your name. And for the record, so you know, we're recording, the camera is basically only focused on the screen. That's why we're doing a little bit of extra clarification as we go along. It's essentially an audio recording with a screen backup.
how we're going to proceed. The HPC administrator provides an overview of the application. The applicant or their representative presents the application if they have additional comments. Proponents and opponents who have received notice of the hearing can present evidence. Rebuttal is allowed by the applicant and by proponents and opponents who receive notice. Others who can justify that they have relevant information and will be directly affected can present evidence. The HPC administrator presents the staff's findings and their recommendations. The applicant or their representative has an opportunity to make final comments on the application if they so desire. Commissioners discuss the evidence and may ask for clarification from the applicant or their representative. The chairman calls for a motion to approve or deny the application with stated findings of fact. The motion is discussed by commissioners. The chairman calls for a vote on the motion by the commission. The COA can be approved, it can be approved with conditions, or it can be denied. So we will start with the first application, which is
311 Bern Street.
311 Bern Street. There's no 311 Bern Street out here.
Okay.
What's the next one?
Well, we will first have to consider continuing 311 Bern Street to the
Okay.
next meeting.
Okay, and then he'll call for the next person.
That's correct.
Okay. So do we have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Well, you need to state the reason, the time, the place,
Place.
Oh, yes, I know, we got to
and
have
the date.
And what is the reason we're continuing it?
The applicant is not here this evening.
Okay. All ready?
What's the next date?
It's going to be May the 19th.
Okay. So
That's-
we're going to
that's the-
continue this until May the 19th
Excuse me, you mean a hearing or design review?
No, for the hearing.
for the hearing.
The 19th.
So it'll be the 19th at 5:30 in the afternoon. And until we know differently, it'll
Correct.
be here in this building
That's correct. That's Development Services
at Development Services
Conference Room.
Conference Room. All right?
Due to the unavailability of the applicant.
Due to the unavailability of the applicant.
Due to the unavailability of the applicant.
Yes.
Okay?
Good game of telephone.
So do we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we can proceed with that.
Okay, who is the motion and who is the second?
Right down here,
Okay, you
Kristen
was
is
the
the
motion.
motion, and somebody over there is the second.
I'll be the second.
You'll be the second.
Okay, all right. All right, our next applicant is 802 East Front Street. 802 East Front Street.
Sarah.
There we go. This application was continued from the last meeting. We'll have to page down to the application. That was 311. Okay. All right, so here is the application for 802 East Front Street for River Station Development Corporation, QB Tolson. And the authorized representative is Go Architectural Design PLLC, Sarah Oplerbach, AIA. You can see the application's been fully completed. And signed and dated. And this is the authorization for Ms. Oplerbach to represent the owners.
Who is Scott Davidson?
Davidson.
Scott Davidson owns the lot within the development of River Station.
I only ask because that's not the name on the application.
Well, you're right, actually. That's true.
So, who owns it?
Scott Davidson owns it, but
Owns
it's
the lot.
part of that development, and they're building it for him, basically. So it's part of that.
So does River Station, what was it, River Station Development Corporation? Do they have any stake in the ownership of the lot and or house?
Well, we have weekly calls about the house and the development. So, I guess, I don't know, technically, I guess not. I mean, Scott did buy the lot from them, and it's still part of that development, and they have approval of what he's going to do.
So there's a
basically.
contractual relationship?
There's a
between-
contractual relationship between them to build the house for him that they are responsible for.
Okay.
So Hubie's, whoever it is that's working for Hubie is the general contractor.
Right.
Okay. For Mr. Davidson and Hubie all at the same time.
And they have contracted to do, just like they're doing with the other houses down there, to build them, and so Hubie has approval on whatever is basically designed for there.
Sarah, I don't recall Tolson's name coming up with the others.
It's the same application that I've used on the other ones. It says
Yeah,
River
but-
Station Development, but he is the one who owns River Station Development. He is the managing partner of that LLC.
Right, so UB Tolson and River Station Development Corporation are essentially the same. But the question is, the property owner happens to be someone else, and there's a contractual relationship between the property owner and Mr. Tolson to design and construct the house.
Right.
And you're the designer for Mr. Tolson. Do you happen to have a contractual relationship with the owner too?
Yeah.
Okay. So can we get some kind of call on this?
Can you scroll to the authorization from the true owner?
So the actual owner of the property has authorized Go Architectural Design to represent him.
So the true owner is Mr. Davidson. The true owner has actual knowledge of the application and has consented for us all
Absolutely.
back to proceed tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Then it appears that maybe there is a clerical error on page 1 of the application.
Okay.
And I feel comfortable moving forward in light of the clerical error in
Mhm.
paragraph 1.
I apologize. I used the same front on it and did not change it.
Yep. All right.
So you need to correct this page.
Yep.
Yes, I
Okay.
do.
So we need to remember that whoever makes the motion, don't forget about correcting the first page. Whoever does that.
Bruce, let me be clear. We're saying the property has two owners.
No.
So, that's one of them.
The owner is Scott Davidson, and he has signed the authorization form. I used the original River Station front page that I've been using for all the houses that I've been bringing to you, who is the Hubie Tolson and the development, the River Station Development Corporation. And so they are working in tandem, and they have a contractual relationship to build a house for him. Sorry, I apologize if that, everyone is aware, but I do need to correct that.
Yeah, we just need you to correct that, so
Yep.
all is the same close.
All right. So then this is the front sheet of the drawings. You see the site plan on the left, and we're talking about this.
No, bottom, that one.
Oh, 802, I'm sorry. Down at the bottom here, this one on the corner of Queen Street and East Front Street. And this is also a lot that faces onto the river, which is off of the screen on the right. So, or backs onto the river. So the front of the house here faces East Front Street. It's a rendering of that. Why is that blank? Why are those all
Well, it
suddenly
says
blank?
there's 97 pages, and something tells me there aren't actually 97 pages.
Oh, there are.
He puts it all in one PDF.
Yes. So, let's try. Let's try this one. There we go. So the program couldn't handle it. All right, so here we have an enlarged view of the site plan for this. Again, you can see the front of the house facing out towards East Front Street with the steps and the walkway to the steps to the porch. And then on the side here is the driveway for the garage, which is on the side of the house. And then on the back, we have a small porch with some steps and a walkway out to the access road or alley around the back. And then you can see also the back of this has kind of a bay window shape for this room here. And lastly, on the north side, we see a small trash enclosure. And the property line is actually this dashed line right here on that side. The small dashed line represents the building envelope, which is the limits of where they're allowed to build the building. All right, next. We can always come back to anything if anyone has questions. So now an enlarged view of the first plan. See those same features again, the front porch, the garage, the back porch, the bay window, and the trash. This is then the second floor. There's a second floor porch on the front and a second floor porch or balcony on the back. And then on the third floor, this is now rooms that are underneath the roof with some dormers and such. And then also a third floor porch or balcony out the back. So here again, we see the front view again. Here's the front steps that we saw with the front porch, and then the second floor porch as well. And here there's a gable and a second gable for the third floor. This sloping roof is a metal roof, and all the rest of the roofs that are not shown with this striping are all the asphalt shingles, fiberglass asphalt shingles. Now we see over here on the right the side elevation with the garage door and the small pent roof, which has the metal roofing on it over the opening. See all the various windows, and then at the top the dormer, gabled dormer. On the right side, this is the railing for the small back porch, and you can see the stairs kind of poking out just past the end of the wall of the little porch on the back. You can also see on the first floor, I mentioned the bay window configuration of the room here. You can see the side window for that. And above that is then the second floor porch, and then above that the third floor porch projecting out from the back face of the wall. Here is the rear elevation. So the small back porch is here on the left with the steps. On the right is that bay window configuration, the second floor porch and the third floor porch, which is then topped by a gazebo-like roofing made of or covered with metal roofing. And then quite a number of extensive windows in the back. And all of this siding is the hardy board plank siding. With the exception at the top here, it's the hardy board shingle siding to give a different texture on the top. let's see. The base or foundation around the entire house is brick piers infilled with louvers in between all the piers. This side now has the same features again. This is now the back porches on the back, and on the right, the front porches. And this side has a third floor gable dormer as well. We have some details about the railing and some of the window detailing, the iron railing. Here we have some renderings showing the house. So from the front on the left, and also the front from a different angle. So you can see the two porches on the front, the double stacked porches, I guess. Then also a rendering from the back, and I think we can enlarge that to have a better idea. Okay, so you have your porch, your garage door, and then the two upper porches here. Does this seem squashed a little bit horizontally, this image, or do you think it's accurate?
The gazebo, there are a few issues with the rendering that we have since fixed. I think that the architectural drawings are more accurate.
Yeah. This seems steeper, this slope here.
The gazebo roof is not quite as, it's a little flatter than what on the other drawings. So.
Yeah. But it's all in perspective too, so, okay.
I think they did, yeah.
So, let's see, so then we have, that's the end of the application. We have our zoning and inspection review form, where we have the zoning. They've stated that it meets the zoning, the land use ordinance, and the chief building inspector says, of course, we'll need a building permit. And then we're ready with our recommendations when you're ready.
Okay. Are there any conflict of issues with this project? Hearing none. Are there anyone who thinks that has an issue on the application of completeness? Hearing none. So, would the applicant like to tell us anything else? Hearing none. So, can you ask out there, are there any notified opponents or proponents of this project?
Are there any notified or opponents or proponents for this project out there? No, there are not.
Okay, so hearing none, we won't go through all of that and the rebuttals of all of that. Is there anyone out there with relevant evidence and having standing about this project?
Does anyone out here have relevant evidence that has standing for this project that would like to speak? None.
Hearing none, we will go on. Can we have your recommendations?
Certainly. So these are the recommendations for the River Station Development Corporation, or in this case, Scott Davidson application and Go Architectural Design for 802 East Front Street. There is no historic property name, and the property is vacant. Of course, there is no National Register inventory description, nor any sandbag description. So the proposal for 802 East Front Street is to include construction of a new 2.5-story infill house. Staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. For development pattern, 2.1.1, 2.1.2, and 2.1.3. For design principles, 3.1.1, 3.1.2, 3.1.3, 3.1.4, and 3.1.5. For infill construction, 3.4.1, 2, 3, and 4. For foundations, 4.1.3, 4.1.4. For walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.4. Windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.3. For entrances, 4.4.4. For roofs, 4.5.4. For decks and patios, 4.6.2. For masonry, 5.1.3, 5, and 6. For metals, 5.3.3 and 5.3.4. For paint, 5.4.2, 3, 4, and 6. And the statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: the project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. The project is located within the narrow stitch development pattern. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 4, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application for construction of a new 2.5-story infill house.
Thank you. Can you go ask if there's any evidence of testimony from any city, state, or government person?
Is there any evidence or testimony from any city, state, or
Government.
entity for this project? No, there are none.
Hearing none. Do you have any final comments, ma'am, you'd like to make? She's shaking her head no. So we will now have a discussion by the commission members. What questions do you have? What comments do you have about this new house?
My first concern is the houses are going up rather rapidly, and we have yet to receive any type of landscape plan. And these houses are all sitting out in an empty field. There's not a tree, maybe some scraggly trees along the East Front Street, maybe, what, 4 or 5? And we have yet to have any type of landscape plan. I think we need to have some idea, are there going to be any trees planted out there, Sarah?
I can bring a landscape plan back to the next meeting. I know they've been working on it, I just don't have it in hand. I don't believe that there's room to plant trees on the properties themselves, but I know, in the right-of-way, there are actually some nice trees there, and, I think that those will, we can request that the city plant some more trees in that right-of-way once the construction's done. Hope, if you want to make suggestions on those trees, I'd be happy to talk with the city about that. I'd love to see something taller,
Are there trees other than the ones along East Front?
Not trees planned for the lots themselves. There are shrubs and beds, but not, I haven't seen a tree suggested.
Is there going to be any uniformity because the houses are so close together?
All the landscaping plans are being done by the same person, so they should have uniformity.
Okay.
And you think you can bring us a copy of that?
I'll request it. I know that they've been working on it. I just haven't physically seen it, so
okay.
I'm pretty sure I can do that. And if you want to make suggestions for what kind of trees for the right-of-way, when we ask the city, we can, I'd like to see some ginkgo trees or something taller, along there. It's nice to get, I've got photos. I can't remember. There are some down the, on the one side, but I don't remember what they are right now.
And there are some nice tall shrubs that could enhance each house that might provide a little bit of privacy.
Yeah, and for around the air conditioning units, they have, I know that they have, we talked about that and they're suggesting a shrub, so.
But Joe, would you like to do anything about the trees and suggestions for trees?
No.
No? All right. Any other questions, statements? Okay. So can we have a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll move that we find the application for 802 East Front Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance sections 15411 through 15429, and New Bern's Historic District guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Development pattern 2.1.1 through 3, Design principles 3.1.1 through 5. Infill construction 3.4.1 and 2, and 3 and 4. Foundation 4.1.3 and 4. Walls 4.2.4. Windows, doors and openings 4.3.3. Entrances 4.4.4. Roofs 4.5.4. Decks and patios 4.6.2. Masonry 5.1.3, 5 and 6. Metals 5.3.3 and 5.3.4. Paint 5.4.2, 3, 4, and 6. Statement of reasons: the project is located within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. The project is located within the narrow stitch development pattern. The zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed the project and commented accordingly, and the project is not incongruous with the guidelines, and as a condition on page 1 of the application, it should reflect the ownership of the property by Mr. Davidson.
If I may, you mentioned statements of reason. I think you meant findings of fact.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes,
All right. So do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Can we have
okay.
a,
You the second, George.
yes. Can we have a motion for issuing a COA?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
George is the second again. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes and you can have your COA.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you for bringing us the plans. Well,
Okay.
You want me to go out?
The next one is
211?
211 Johnson Street.
211 Johnson Street?
Mr. Administrator, 211 Johnson Street should be removed from the agenda.
Okay, so we are requesting that 211 Johnson Street be removed from the agenda. It was improperly listed as a hearing item for tonight.
Okay. And do we have to have a motion being that it was improperly listed? We don't have a motion. We're just going to remove it because of that. Okay?
Okay?
So 211 Johnson is going to be removed from the agenda.
Did y'all hear that? 611 East Front.
Sorry, Vanna.
Yes. Thank you. All right. Let me Okay. So this is the application for 611 East Front Street. The Jerkins Havens House, built in 1885. The property is of Paul Deering and Nicole Kerr. And the applicant is Go Architectural Design, PLLC, Sarah Uppabach, AIA. And you can see complete application. And signed and dated by the authorized representative, who is authorized here, Go Architectural Design, PLLC. And in this case, by the actual, the owner, same as the name on the application. All right, so this will be our first page of the drawings. And this shows two versions of the site. The first on the left is the existing plan, and on the right is the proposed plan. So, sorry, let's go over here to the existing plan. You can see the house here with the street is out front. So we're looking in the backyard here. There's a driveway up the left-hand side, and this is mostly all paved with bricks. And then there's a garage in the back corner of the lot. And you'll see there's 4 posts here. You'll see there's an overhang from the porch roof over that area. So on the right-hand side, we see then the proposal which is to add a roofed pergola over this section of the backyard and extending from the house out to within, what is that, 18 feet of the garage. Let's see. Sorry, 10'5" from the garage. And then it's also located 5'2" from the property line at that end and 5'6" from the property line at this end. You can see there are 4 posts at this end and 4 posts at that end. So these are some photos of the existing yard. So there's the garage with that covered area I was talking about and the house in the background. And then down here from the opposite direction of the garage, this paved area, and you can see there is an outdoor kitchen here. Let's go back here. That's just off screen here to the right. There we go. Missed this photograph. This is the main area where this covering will happen. Over top of this, most of the kitchen, outdoor kitchen, and a good portion of this paved area. All right, so now we go back to some drawings. And here we see on the left is the existing elevation of the back of the house, and then with the same elevation with the garage included, essentially in silhouette here, but it's the back of the garage. So as if you're standing at the rear property line. There's the, now this is a side elevation which includes the house on the right, the small one-story addition that's here on the house already, and the existing chimney, and then the existing steps. The space all the way out to the garage, and then this is that covered portion of the garage here. So this is one drawing showing the space in between the two. Now this is a drawing which then fills that space down here with the proposed cover. So extending out from the existing building towards the garage, but not quite touching the garage, 10 feet away. And then we have the that rear elevation here on the left with the new cover shown here in front of the house. Up here are some expanded or enlarged drawings showing more of the construction and some of the issues about head clearances and placement of the posts, different kinds of materials, and then more or less a section view looking back towards the house showing only the right-hand side of the covered area, the posts in a line here, and then the overhang and all the materials and such there as well. So let's see. So they show some renderings of the proposal. So extending out from the house, and the roof is slightly sloping. I'll point that out on the previous elevation. The high side being here on this side, and then the low side towards the left. You can kind of see it in these renderings. And then this is another photo of that area where we're talking about almost the same angle as this picture here on the lower right. Okay, so that's the application. Oops. And then we have our zoning and inspections report, and on this one, at the time of the application, it was slightly different. At the time, it did not meet the requirements of the land use ordinance because the setback for the roof addition is required to be 5 feet. It was 3'11" at the time. These drawings you just saw, as I noted, indicate it's over 5. They've now revised it to be over 5 feet. Otherwise, the chief building inspector indicated that it will need a building permit. And then we're ready with our recommendations.
Are there any members who have conflict of interest with this project? Are there any members who have an issue with the applicant's completeness? Does the applicant want to say anything else about the project?
No, I'd rather hear questions. I mean,
You've got what?
You should
I just
listen to
rather-
questions.
see if you have questions. I think Matt has presented it fully.
Okay. All right, can you go ask opponents and proponents?
Are there any opponents or proponents who've been notified of this project or for this project who'd like to speak? None.
There are no opponents or proponents for this, so we can skip all the rebuttal. Is there anybody with relevant evidence and has standing that would like to speak?
Anyone who has relevant standing for this project that would like to speak? None.
Having none. Why don't we just go ahead since you're up? Is there anybody from the city, state, or government out there?
Is there anybody from the city, state, or government out here who would like to speak about this project?
Okay.
There are none.
Okay, that's everybody. Okay, now you can give us your recommendation.
All right. So, this is for the applicants Paul Deering and Nicole Kerr and Go Architectural Design. The project address is 611 East Front Street, and it is to include a new roofed wood trellis in the Tertiary AVC. Whoops. Oh, I didn't know how to do that. So the National Register inventory information is that the historic property name is the Jerkins Havens House, built circa 1855 to 1860 and was remodeled in 1880 to 1890. It is listed as a contributing resource in the historic district. They describe it as Italianate style, 2 stories, 3 bays wide, elaborate brackets, steep hip roof, and paneled chimney stack. The sand deck description is from 1988. Its plain weatherboard exterior was considerably enlivened by the addition, circa 1880 to 1890, of many Victorian details, including the bracketed cornice and the bracketed front porch. So as a result, I've included a photograph of the front porch with the brackets and some of the Victorian details. The brackets are important because they were trying to preserve those in the back of the house as well. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. For accessory structures, 2.6.1, 2.6.2, 2.6.3. Additions, 3.3.1 and 2 and 3. Walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.1. Roofs, 4.5.1, 2, 3, and 4. For wood, 5.2.1 and 2. For paint, 5.4.2, 3, and 4. For contemporary materials, 5.5.6. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: the structure is a contributing resource in the tight weave development pattern. The project is within the tertiary AVC. The proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So since they've changed the design, we no longer have the following conditions. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include a new roofed wood trellis in the tertiary AVC.
Okay, we've already done speakers. Okay, any final comments you all want to make?
Just that rear addition was done by the Taggarts in 10 years ago, something like that.
2010.
2010.
Yeah.
And so the detailing on that back is, I mean, the fireplace, the new, everything back there is not original to the house.
Okay. All right. Members, what discussion would you like to have? What questions would you like to ask?
I have one question. Because of the slant of the roof, how are you going to carry the water away, or is it just going to run off?
So that was one of the biggest issues, is how to put a roof on it and, you know, without pitching it completely. So it'll be a membrane roof over that, and it'll just slope towards driveway.
Okay.
And so I figured that keeping the straight lines along the neighbor's house and the driveway would be better than pitching it to the back. You know, that way you would see that slope, but, you know, from the side
I
yard, you
don't
won't see
argue
it.
that. I was just thinking of the accumulation of water that, you know, maybe a French drain along that side, a shallow one, just to carry it and direct it away from the property.
That, there is quite a bit of paving in that backyard, but I don't know if it is permeable pavers or not.
There's no mortar between them, so I would assume
That there's a
that
sand bed,
there can be seepage, you know,
but
through them.
I'm not sure if there is an opportunity, maybe along the edge of that paving. It
It's
could be.
not a big, it was just a question.
Yeah. It's something to consider, yeah.
I wonder what degree of slope would be required to make the water roll off. We had dealt with that with the porch sometime back on King Street.
Yeah, I think I've got it at 1/4 inch per foot, which should be plenty
pretty
to,
good.
should be plenty to make it slope. I think I've got that written on there.
Yeah.
But it's enough for a membrane, and it's not, it's, you know, we're trying to keep it dry, but it, you know, technically there's nothing under it, it's just outdoor space. And trying to hide that, you know, membrane with a, you know, so that we've got a wood edge around it. So what you see from the outside is only wood, that you wouldn't, standing in that driveway or in the neighbor's yard, be able to see any membrane.
Okay, any other discussion questions? Could we have a motion related to this project?
Madam Chair, I move that we find the application for 611 East Front Street. Excuse me, I move that we find the application for certificate of appropriateness for 611 East Front Street to be not incongruous with numerous code of ordinance, sections 15-411 to 15-429, and numerous historic district guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Applicable guidelines, accessory structures, 2.6.1, 2.6.2, 2.6.3.
Isn't it an addition? Didn't we go through that? It's not technically an accessory structure? That was the whole point of the zoning?
Right, okay, so that's true. So I listed both accessory structure and additions depending on how it was attached or not attached to the structure. So is the building actually attached to the structure?
Yes.
So it's an addition.
Because if it were an accessory structure, then we'd have to keep it 8 feet away from the house.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah, right, yes. So yes, so being attached, it's just an addition. So you can actually strike the section on accessory structures.
Okay. We withdraw the motion, start over.
Sorry.
Move that we find the application for certificate of appropriateness for 611 East Front Street to be not incongruous with numerous code of ordinance, sections 15-411 to 15-429, and numerous historic district guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Applicable guidelines, additions 3.3.1, 3.3.2, and 3.3.3. Walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.1. Roofs, 4.5.1 through 4.5.4. Wood, 5.2.1 and 5.2.2. Paint, 5.4.2, 5.4.3, and 5.4.4. Contemporary materials, 5.5.6. Findings of fact, The structure is a contributing resource in the tight weed development pattern. The project is within Tertiary AVC. The proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. The project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
Thank you. So do we have a second on this motion?
Second.
Okay. Anybody, any questions at this point? Hearing or seeing none. All of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, nay. We hear no nays, so the motion passed. Can I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, George is the second. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, hearing none, the motion passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. We'll have a party when you get it done.
bet.
Yeah.
Gotta get the luau.
So you said. On to it, Matt.
Shall I go fetch?
Yes, so the next one is
I think we're ready now.
17 each
Yep, we're in
front?
here. Yep.
Oh, good.
Okay.
You say it again.
Step into my office.
Chris, you're 10 minutes early.
Hey.
You booked it.
Everybody?
All right. So 617 East Front Street, so just 2 more houses down, right? So we have our application here. And the property owners Seth Miller and Samantha Cunningham. And their authorized representative is Chris Davis, right? From Coastal Craftsman. So you can see a fully completed application here and here. That's been signed and dated. And then this is the authorization for Coastal Craftsman to represent the owners, although they are here anyway. So, let's see. So, wait a minute. Oh, I know what I did. Yeah, so in this case, I decided to include this photograph at the beginning, so you knew which house we're talking about. And then there's also some of the description of the building, which we'll get to later. So, this is the aerial view of the property. So maybe a little hard to see, but the site is very tight, and you can imagine there must be a property line between this house and the applicant's garage, and then at the corner of the garage, down along between the 2 houses here as well. This white rectangle is a carport. And then this area, this light colored area here is part of the subject of this application, but primarily, and you can barely see, there's a black line that's been drawn here on top of the aerial and to this corner. They're looking to take off this little piece of roof here, which is down at the first floor level, and add a rear porch, screened-in porch here on this corner. All right, so this gives you a little better drawing. This happens to be for the floodplain. The blue represents it's actually in the floodplain, but you can see a little bit better where the screened-in porch is to be. And then the garage is here. It looks like it's attached to the neighbor's house or garage, but it's actually separate. And then the carport is here on the left, which also looks like it's attaching to the neighbor's house as well.
It does.
So, okay, this is now one of the drawings for the application. And here they're showing now, it's totally flipped around the other way. The front street is out the top of the picture, and this is the garage here at the bottom of the picture. So they've shown here the screen porch to fit that corner like that. They're coming out the back of the house here, and then they'll adding a new door and some steps on the left here. And it is now 8 feet exactly from the existing garage, which is a zoning requirement. And so this project also has the same kind of situation that the last one did, that this is now a revised drawing since our recommendations were written and the zoning and inspections report was done. So we'll get to that in a minute, but this is just to let you know that we're okay. This drawing also shows on this end the area before, or behind the carport, I suppose, is an area where they're going to be adding a bit of outdoor kitchen for a gas grill and a sink. The previous plan had a fireplace here, and in this drawing it's been removed from the drawing, and outdoor fireplace to be determined. So this gives you a rendering view of the proposal. The new porch here with the steps and the foundation with the brickwork, and then on the right-hand side the new outdoor kitchen here. And here you can see the carport beyond. So to note is there's also a projection out into the carport here. So it may or may not be possible even to use this paved area for vehicles, which could become a question later, or would have become a question later. So now we have architectural elevations of the project, very similar to the rendering we just saw now, 2 and 12 pitch, metal roofing. We have 4x4 square posts, etc. 6-inch square columns on the corner and in the middle here, and next to the door. And let's see. Oh wait, there must be more on this side. Oh, the outdoor cooking station elevation. You can see that there. This brick fence, or the brick wall and the fence on top is already pre-existing. So here's another, go to the plan first. This is just the foundation plan to show the layout of that. And now the elevation from the side of the porch is very similar to the back of the porch. And now I did include the old drawings in case there's some discussion about this, about the fireplace. And so if we need to, we can come back to that here. This is their detailed list of the work to be done and the materials to be used. And then this is our zoning and inspection review. So the zoning administrator noticed the addition must leave at least 8 feet separation from the accessory structure, which they have subsequently revised to ensure. The project will require a building permit, and then we're ready with the recommendations when you're ready.
Are there any conflicts of interest on this project? Seeing none, are there any issues on the application's completeness? All right. Would you all like to present anything else?
No.
No. Okay. Can you go ask?
Mm-hmm.
Opponents, proponents, and then state, city, or government body.
So there's only one person out here. So do you have anything to do with this project? No.
Okay.
That's my problem.
No to all of those. Okay, so if you can give us staff findings, we'll go with that.
All right. So. All right. So this is the findings for Seth and Samantha Cunningham's project with Coastal Craftsmen Incorporated for 617 East Front Street, to include removing the existing stoop and roof, existing concrete patio, and portion of the brick driveway, construct a new screen porch, brick outdoor kitchen with or without a fireplace, brick patio paving, and a wood outdoor shower enclosure, all in the secondary and tertiary AVCs. So for the National Register inventory of 2003, the information there, this is the Abbott Row House, built around 1885 with renovation in 1923. Contributing structure, it's described as 2.5 stories, 3 bays wide, pediment and hipped dormers, hipped main roof. The sandback description portion that's relevant from 1988, quote, outwardly bearing the 1920s detailing of the colonial revival and bungalow styles from the 1920s remodeling. The dominant exterior detail is the broad overhanging cornice, a feature that is repeated on the front porch and side porte cochere. So these, all of these brackets coming out the underneath at the eaves. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. Landscaping 2.4.7, accessory structures 2.6.1. Whoops, this wouldn't be an accessory structure.
This would be an addition.
Yes. So if someone will look those up.
No, you got it further.
What's that?
I said additions is further. If that's what you're looking for.
Additions is what?
Further down the
Further
list.
down.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
sorry,
okay.
yeah.
So yes, so get
Just
rid of
scratch
it.
out.
So we're going to
Accessory.
skip accessory structures. That might have been for the kitchen at the time. So let's continue with this 2.6.1 and 2.6.3. Design principles 3.1.1, 2, 4, and 5. Modifications 3.2.1 and 2. Additions 3.3.1, 2, and 3. For foundations 4.1.1, 2, 3, and 4. Walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.1 and 4.2.4. For windows, doors, and openings 4.3.1 and 2. For entrances 4.4.1, 4, and 5. For roofs 4.5.4. For masonry 5.1.1, 2, and 3. For wood 5.2.1 and 2. For metals 4.3.2. For paint 5.4.2, 3, and 4. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the structure is a contributing resource in the tight weed development pattern. The project is within the tertiary and secondary AVCs. 3, the proposed design, components, materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So again, we will strike the condition because they changed the dimension of the project. Staff recommends the commission approve this application to include removing the existing stoop and roof, existing concrete patio, and portion of the brick driveway. Construct a new screen porch, brick outdoor kitchen with or without a fireplace, brick patio paving, and a wood outdoor shower enclosure, all in the secondary and tertiary AVCs without any conditions.
May I ask, where is the outdoor shower enclosure? Did you show us where that was?
It's not on the rendering, but it'll be just on the outside of that outdoor kitchen.
Is it in the plan?
It's not. It's not on the rendering, no.
I didn't, I just caught that
Just on the left side, if you go down, Matt, just a hair, just on the left side of that grill area. So there's a column there, it would be just on the left side of that column.
I thought I saw something right here. Is that it right there? Or is that the column?
That's the column.
So there's an outdoor shower going right here?
That's correct.
What for?
And do you have some description of that?
It'd just be a standard pressure treated 3x3 outdoor shower, hot and cold.
So,
What do you mean?
Like pressure treated walls.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be either opaque stained or painted to match the lattice on the fence.
Is it enclosed?
Yeah,
And you were saying 3x3, what's that?
3x3 dimensions.
Oh, 3 foot by
By
3
3
foot,
foot.
gotcha.
Like a lanai. It's like a lanai.
Like a lanai, I'm not familiar with what that is.
In Hawaii, they have a lot of outdoor showers.
Okay.
And would you show the placement again, please?
Just north of that column there. So there's a prep sink. You've got your carport column, and it'll be just on the top side of that, right here. So if you scroll down, Matt, it's a little bit easier to see, kind of down.
So it's on the west side of the property.
East side.
Well,
It's in the back.
it's on the south side of the property to the east of this column, right? Because north is to the left.
so you'll need to redo that and show that in your drawings.
Okay.
Okay.
And we can make a condition that Matt
Mhm.
approve that design, perhaps?
Right.
Yes, we could do that.
Now, the river is on the east side,
Correct.
so the shower is going to be where?
In the east side.
On the east side of that column. So let's go back to the rendering, right?
So if you scroll left, just a hair. So you've got a grill, a column, a shower. Yeah.
So
Right on the other side of that column.
see this column here?
Yeah.
It'll be just on the other side of that column. So and how deep is the kitchen
It'll be
here?
24 inches.
It's 24. So it will stick out another foot from the kitchen,
Correct.
and then 3 feet down and 3 feet back into the brick wall. And it will be pressure treated, painted, or opaque stained wood, somewhat like a privacy fence. And will be in order to match in color or stain the this what do you call this, the fence that's up here
Trellis.
Lattice.
in color, right? The lattice, right?
Before you leave that, Matt, just in way of information, the lattice work that's above the brick wall,
Yes.
it's pre-existing, so there's no problem with it,
Right.
except what happens if it breaks down? Because it's probably made out of wood.
Mhm.
Can they replace it
Of course.
without permission?
Well, if they replace it exactly as it was, it's a replacement in kind. If they repair it, it's a repair. Both of those do not require a permit or a COA, but they do still have to check with us to make sure that it meets those criteria. And then if they do, then we send them verification, basically. If it doesn't, then they have to provide, if they choose to do something slightly different, then they will have to have some kind of COA.
In today's climate, would something like that be approved?
Sure.
Well, it's taller than 6 feet, it looks
Yeah.
like, but maybe not.
That's to say, take care of it.
Yeah, it's
Samantha.
Taller than 6
Oh,
feet. Yeah.
That says, take care of it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's,
yeah.
that's.
But we can repair it and
In kind,
replace
yeah.
it exactly.
Right.
Okay, we haven't had to, need to yet.
But if you change it, it'll be 6 feet.
It'll be 6 feet.
Ah,
That was a
we
heavy.
like it, it's fun.
We'll treat that like a child of our own.
Yes, there you go.
We recommend that.
Now, if I may ask about the
Mhm.
width, when we vote this evening, are we including the fireplace, the outdoor kitchen with a fireplace? Because you keep saying
So,
with or
yes.
without.
So, the plans just came in today without the fireplace in it. So, I wanted to have a discussion as to whether or not, first of all, maybe the applicants have decided they don't want to do one anytime soon. However, if they do want to do one like that design at some point, they could ask for an approval this evening as part of this overall project. And once they start any part of this project, if they start any part of this project within a year, the application and the approval would not expire. So they could, 2-3 years down the road, actually build that fireplace like it has been approved. So they may want to decide to put it back in, or if they choose, they can still do that and leave it as it is in the current application, and they can, if at some point in the future it'll be a separate application in order to add that same thing back in as a project. It'll be a totally new project.
And how tall would this kitchen with a fireplace be?
Well, so let's first of all make sure the applicants understand the options.
The plan is to put the reason why it's not on this most recent rendering is that the #1 focus on this was to change our dimensions so that we can have our spacing for zoning. This same design of the fireplace will stay. It's going to get a little bit smaller actually, so it'll fit the space a little bit better.
Okay. Oh, you're swatting a fly?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the fireplace is still part of the design. It'll just be a smaller rendering of that design of fireplace.
And so how tall will it be?
The top of the fireplace will be 2 foot above any structure 10 foot distance from it. So that's to be determined on site.
Right. So at that point, the two options are either you submit that then as a separate project in the future and go through this one more time, or you submit it as it is shown here and you do minor revisions to it later.
Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. Yeah, unless there's any objection to including the fireplace, and which would inhibit this from being approved.
Right, so that would be the last thing, but
yeah.
Okay.
So we're coming back later.
So, okay, so now we can go and look at the actual fireplace design that they have here, right?
No, Mr. Ure, I'd like to include it if we can.
So this is the rendering and the plan view right here?
See, it's taller than the fence.
Yes. So a fireplace has to be 2 feet higher than anything within 10 feet around it. Now, are you then concerned about the new porch, the edge of the new porch?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That'll be. It's not exactly the scale. That's part of the reason why we're scaling the fireplace down as well, is to move it
and then
to the optimum location.
Possibly moving it closer to the garage?
Within 10 feet, yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Does anyone have any objections to that kind of?
I guess what I was getting at, there are a lot of moving parts on this
Yep.
between the shower and the chimney and the height and now the position of the fireplace, and it just might be better for everyone to just bring that back.
Figure it out.
Sure.
And you know, that could be done after you've constructed the porch addition, and then you'll kind of know exactly how tall your chimney's going to be and exactly where you want to put it.
Well, I have a question about, let's assume that everything was going to be as your original design was. We have a brick wall, and attached to the brick wall is an outdoor kitchen, and attached to the brick wall is this fireplace. Why don't we just attach an entire building right on the property line? Because we can't do that.
It's not a building,
But
yeah.
the question becomes one of, I mean, there's a lot of construction going on basically on the property line.
I agree.
And what happened to the setbacks that are required from the property line for construction?
So that's a zoning decision, not an HPC decision.
Well, but we can't approve a design unless zoning has address that question. And if they've addressed the question, then we can talk about the design. If they
Which is
haven't
maybe
addressed the
another good
question-
reason to have it be a separate application.
Oh, but that includes the kitchen, not just the fireplace. Because the
Well,
kitchen
so-
has
so
a brick
things
base and
like-
it's attached.
Like lot coverage and setbacks pertain to the structure,
Mm-hmm.
enclosed structures, but it doesn't preclude you from building other things within the setbacks like driveways or fences or.
The porte cochere, I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Well, the porte cochere is 100 years old.
I understand that, and I'm not questioning that.
So I'm not sure there's a conflict with the application we see, at least in my opinion.
I mean,
But I do see what your point is. Thinking about it, I think there are a lot of things that, because of the lot sizes that we see in the district that get built in the setbacks that take up a lot of space.
But the setbacks are meant to address buildings and accessory buildings. Well, which are buildings. So buildings, primary and accessory buildings. And there's different setbacks for each.
I don't see them moving further into the backyard because there isn't one.
Right.
I mean, you know.
But you're gonna have so much structure right here on the side of the,
But that's-
of the porch shed.
It's in the setback, but it's, if my memory serves, it's also further back than where any cars ever are. And so it's essentially what functions as their yard.
Right, and the fact that they're adding a shower, which will be even a 1 foot, 3 feet narrower than it currently is, makes it even less likely that a vehicle would go through there. So this is not going to be
No part of
vehicular.
this design is focused on vehicles
Yeah.
past that gate.
So,
And one would assume on the other side of the fence, the neighbors also lacking in large backyard do more or less the same thing.
So I would say that we need a rendering that includes all, if you're planning on putting all of that on this side, that includes all of that as one set of items for us to look at. If you can bring that back to us.
so at the moment, they're proposing this without the fireplace and the wood enclosed shower
That we don't see.
that you don't see. But someone had suggested we make that a condition.
Yeah.
So we're doing the screen porch and the grill, basically.
Essentially.
And the shower.
And the shower.
The shower as a condition with Matt's eyes on it.
Right.
Right. And we're not doing anything about the big,
That's correct.
we're not doing anything about that.
Okay. All right, so that's the discussion, right? We got through my entire recommendation, that's correct?
We have.
And so now we're in the middle of discussion.
So we're in discussion
Yeah.
about that one of the additions to whoever makes the recommendation is that they bring a rendering of the shower and that driveway area with the shower added in there.
Okay.
And no big fireplace,
And bringing it to me,
bringing it to you.
yeah. Mhm.
So are we scratching the fireplace and addressing that as a separate COA?
Yeah.
Yes.
And aside from calling it a shower, would that be an accessory structure? Because it's closed?
Good point.
Well,
It's
It doesn't have a roof.
It's a fence, yeah. It
It's
doesn't have a
under
roof.
roof.
It's a three-sided fence.
so it's in the carport.
I'm just raising
Yeah,
a
so
question.
no, it's not a structure.
I don't think we've had to deal with an outdoor shower yet, so this
Yeah.
is a learning experience.
Ask all the questions you need.
Yeah.
Mr. Joe,
Yes.
So is the notion that the HPC is delegating authority to you to approve or disapprove the rendering of the shower?
Yep. So far, we haven't actually heard the motion and the condition.
Well, we've heard a description of it. We just
Right.
need to see a picture of it in where it's really gonna be. And if it doesn't meet what they've described, then this application won't be approved and they'll have to come back to us.
Does that make sense to you? It does.
Okay? Right, so now we're clear on about what we're doing about the shower. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I've got one more quick question. This may have been
I
covered in
should've
design
known. I
review.
should've
Well,
known.
I want to talk about metal roof a little bit.
Metal roof.
Did we
okay.
talk about that design review at all?
No.
No.
The metal roof? No?
Can we elaborate a little bit on?
Yeah?
It'll be a standard standing seam metal roof to match any of the other historic buildings downtown.
Okay. And Matt, can you go to the detail
Sure.
on the drawing? So hand seamed
Yes, sir.
in all likelihood,
Yeah.
flat pans.
Yes, sir.
All right. And so I was kind of interpreting that hip as a raised flashing on top of the seams, and just wanted to confirm that we're rolling the seam, I presume.
Yes, sir.
And then
Yep.
rolling that
Yep.
hip. Thank you.
No cap.
Nope.
Excellent.
Thank you for confirming that.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have anything they want to bring up? So the roof is taken care of in the application, so the only thing we need to add is about the shower at the end. Okay?
Mhm.
So can we have a motion? Somebody like to make a motion?
Not me.
You look so eager.
Who's gonna do it? Okay. go
I
ahead.
move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 617 East Front Street to be not incongruous with Newburn's Code of Ordinance, sections 15-411, 15-429, and Newburn's Historic District guidelines, based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Landscaping, 2.4.7. Design principles, 3.1.1, 3.1.2, 3.1.4, and 3.1.5. Modifications, 3.2.1 and 3.2.2. Additions, 3.3.1, 3.3.2, and 3.3.3. Foundations, 4.1.1 through 4.1.4. Walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.1 and 4.2.4. Windows, doors, and openings, 4.3.1 and 4.3.2. Entrances, 4.4.1, 4.4.4, and 4.4.5. Roofs, 4.5.4. Masonry, 5.1.1, 5.1.2, and 5.1.3. Wood, 5.2.1, 5.2.2. Metals, 5.3.2. Paint, 5.4.2 through 5.4.4. And that's it for the guidelines. Findings of fact. The structure is a contributing resource in the tight weed development pattern. The project is within the tertiary and secondary AVCs. The proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. The zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. The project is not incongruous with the guidelines. I'd like to add a condition that a rendering of the proposed shower be given to the HPC administrator for approval.
Did you also want to add in there about and that there'll be no big fireplace and there'll be another COA?
I don't think that has to be in the
Oh,
motion. Could be.
We do because it says brick outdoor kitchen with a fireplace.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we need to,
Condition number 2,
yes,
the construction of the fireplace is not included in this motion.
yes. Okay, is everybody set on the commission about what we've actually done? So rendering of the shower and no fireplace. Okay. All of those in favor, say
We need a
aye.
I think you
Second.
need a second.
Oh, sorry, second.
Madam Chair, just for a point of clarification, is the rendering to be approved, assuming it's consistent with the discussion and findings of fact tonight?
Yes, that's what he said, that it be approved by Matt.
Not at,
Yes.
so long as it's consistent with the discussion that's had.
Yes.
Yes.
Say that again?
So long as the rendering is consistent with the discussion and findings of tonight's meeting.
Okay. So I will rephrase condition number 1, the rendering of the shower shall be presented to the HVC administrator for approval, consistent with tonight's discussion.
That's sufficient.
Okay.
It's my understanding that the fireplace has been removed.
Yeah. Yes, the second one is there's no outdoor fireplace.
Okay.
Okay, we're all set. Okay, now, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Krista, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Here-
Nay.
We have 1 nay. Okay. All right. And we have 1 nay and we have 6 pros, so the motion passed. Do I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
We have 1 nay and 6 yays, so the motion passed. So you can have a COA with these stipulations, with these 2 stipulations.
All right, very good, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Would you like to declare your conflict now?
Yes, you want me to declare it first?
Well, I'll follow your lead.
Okay, I was gonna do
Well, the
this
next
and then,
application is 308 Metcalf.
yeah, I was gonna do this and then
Okay.
declare it.
That's fine.
Okay, and you got your list?
And I got the list.
Okay. All right, so the next item is 308 Metcalf Street.
Correct. All right. Want me to proceed?
Yes, go ahead and proceed.
All right.
Then I'll declare.
308 Metcalf Street, built circa 1880. The applicant is Michael Rogers of Metcalf Holdings LLC. The application is uses attachments and otherwise fully filled out, signed, and dated. And here's the attachment. This attachment lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 11 different project items, which are then also illustrated on the following pages. So for number, let me make this a little, I don't know. This is item number 1, is the numbers on the bottom somewhere. I don't know where it is there. Oh, there, all the way at the bottom where you, now we have to go up. And this is to remove the air conditioner and fill the hole that's left by the air conditioner with siding similar to that which is adjacent to it. Number 2 is to remove 4 vinyl windows that exist on the house. I am going to make this smaller. This is kind of ridiculous. All right, remove 4 windows. This is one of them. And replace them with wood windows with 6/6. The next one is number 3. I don't actually have the list with me to reference.
Oh, sure.
So short of running back and forth, this might be better. So number 3 is to remove the wood board infill between foundation piers and install solid brick masonry infill with decorative vent holes. As illustrated in 4.1 of the guidelines. Recess infill 1 to 2 inches between the piers and solid brick infill to be done on the left, right, and rear of the house. Install wood crawl space access door on the rear left side infill. So that's the side. We're talking about these 2 areas here in this photograph. And one of those will be a wood, this has a wood access door already, and that one does too. So that's number 3. Number 4, install 3 pair of fully functional wood louvered shutters with hinge and holdback hardware on the front windows of the house. So these are fake plastic shutters, so they'll be removed. These are original, so they will stay. And then, and so 2 up at the top, 2 pair at the top, and 1 pair at the bottom. And then there are 2 front doors. So that's what you can see in that photograph there. There's a cut sheet from the shutters, and you can see the hinges and the holdbacks. Let's see, then we have here number 5 is to install vertical wood fence not to exceed 6 foot tall in the backyard. The wood planks 1 inch apart. Fence similar and designed to rear fence to the house on the left side, so similar to that fence back there. And paint with opaque stain and remove smaller picket fence that's up in front here. And also remove the chain link fence, which is not in this photograph but elsewhere on the lot. 5. Number 6. Number 6 is to install tongue and groove wood floor with 3 1/8 inch wide planks on the front and the back porches. This is the front porch, and showing that the existing wood flooring is not tongue and groove, and it's a thicker material, I think, too. And then the same thing will happen on the rear porch. I don't know if you have that photograph too. Yes, this is the rear porch. And you can see it has all been pieced together with many different sizes and replacement parts over the years. Right there. Okay, and there's one of the example planks, 3 1/8. That's number 6. Number 7 is this regarding the ceiling here on the back porch. Remove the slat ceiling and stringers on the rear porch to just expose the roof joist. So currently it's a relatively low ceiling, and he's looking to just remove all of this and leave the roof rafters on the porch exposed. This is on the 2nd floor of the 2nd floor porch. You kind of see it in this photograph here, all the way up there, the very top of the photograph. All right, and this is 8. Right. So this is to, for the rear porch steps, remove the handicap ramp, remove the precast concrete steps, which is here, and the pipe handrail, you can see on the right-hand side. Replace all that with wood steps, wood handrail pickets, and such, identical to the front steps of the house. And on the side, it'll be an infill of, so identical to this construction here. And we have that as well. And in that little side piece underneath the stringer, he's planning on putting lattice work, which does not yet exist on the existing one. But, so that's number 8. Number 9 is to remove, let's read it from this. Remove the back door to the rear bedroom on the back porch and infill with clapboard identical to the existing, and then use this wood door to replace the steel door that's at the end of the back porch. So here on the right, This door here has actually a screen door on it. There's a wood door behind that. So that wood door would be removed, taken off the hinges, and then the opening would be, and the trim removed, and the opening would be just covered with siding to match the existing siding. And then that wood door would then go and fit in this door opening, hopefully, and replace the steel door that's there. There's also a metal screen door there as well. So here's a better shot of that. There's the wood door. And we have the, yep, and there's the metal door. Okay. All right, so then this is number 10. So here is either original or older version of the column posts. Not uncommon for them to have trimmed the corners, chamfered the corners. However, that's the only one that's left. And so the owner would like to trim the other posts to be similar. So like this one in the back behind here, and then the other ones that are on the rest of the house. Yep, on the front porch as well. So then number 11 is to replace one of the front doors, which is this one on the right, that has 6 light glass panels with a vintage or reproduction solid wood 4-panel door, as similar to the other door, the other front door, which is like that. Okay. So that's item 11. Okay, so that is essentially his application. Thank you very much. This is the zoning and inspections report, and zoning administrator said it meets the zoning, the land use ordinance. The building inspector said it will need or require a building permit if the project cost exceeds $15,000. A building permit will be required. Okay, and then we have our recommendations and findings when you're ready.
Okay. So the next item is there any conflict of interest with this project?
You.
I do, because I got a letter, because I live 2 doors down from it. So I'm going to turn the rest of this over to my co-chair.
Assuming you are.
I think we have to
Move
move
I'm
that.
going to let him do
Thank you,
that.
Madam Chair.
I'm going to let him do
All right,
that.
can we have a motion to dismiss Madam Chair from hearing this application?
So moved.
Who was that?
There, sir.
All of you.
Pick one.
Pick one.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, is a second?
Joe.
Second.
Who was the second?
Joe.
You were the first. I picked you.
Christian.
All right.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we've dismissed Madam Chair. Do we have any public?
We have Madam Chair.
I mean, Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the record, okay. So at this point, applicant has an opportunity to follow up on Matt's presentation. Anything we overlooked that you'd like to bring to our attention at this point?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Madam Chair, do you have any public comment?
She wandered off.
She's gone.
She's gone.
She also has standing, by the way.
Yeah.
That's why she
Oh, that's
received the
true.
notice. And so let's confirm that she has no further interest as an adjacent property.
This is going to go very smoothly.
Well, certainly hope so.
She's not present.
Okay. So by virtue
She's
of,
left the building.
so by virtue of Madam Chair having left the room rather permanently during our discussion, we'll presume that she has no further discussion, and that would also preclude us from hearing any testimony from opponents or proponents, as well as any state and local officials. And any others who have special expertise to contribute. So we can skip ahead, and I believe that brings us to staff findings and recommendations, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. All right. So these are the findings and recommendations for Michael Rogers of Metcalf Holdings, LLC, for the project at 308 Metcalf Street, which is to include, in the primary AVC, replacing the front door with wood 4-panel door, replacing 4 vinyl windows with wood double-hung 6/6 windows, installing 3 pair of wood shutters with hardware. In the primary and secondary AVCs, installing tongue and groove wood porch flooring, chamfering existing wood posts, replacing wood foundation infill with solid or lattice pattern brick and wood access door. In the secondary AVC, removing slat porch ceiling, removing metal door, relocating wood door and infill door opening with wood siding. And in the tertiary AVC, replacing precast concrete steps, metal handrail and handicap ramp with wood steps and handrail, removing chain link fence and picket fence, installing wood 6-foot fence, removing AC unit and infilling with wood siding. The National Register inventory of 2003 information, the historic property name is the Watson Rental House, built circa 1880. Is a contributing structure in the historic district. And the description is 2 stories, 3 bays wide, 4 bays deep, double-story porch at southeast corner of house, low-pitched hip roof and interior chimney. The relevant Sandbeck description is, from 1988 is, quote, "This simply finished dwelling displays the boxy hipped roof form seen on many of the city's more Italianate style houses built during the 1880s. But it is of smaller scale and lacks the ornate sawn ornament used on the larger, more costly examples of the style. Its 3-bay facade is sheltered by a full-width porch added between 1908 and 1913 to replace the original small 1-bay porch. The second entrance door is likewise a later alteration. The house follows a center chimney side hall plan and has a 2-story rear L with double porches. Its relatively small window openings contain traditional 6/6 sash." Unquote. And here is a photograph of the front of the house in full color for reference from 2019. And so our findings and recommendations continue with staff summits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. Fences and garden walls 2.5.1, 3, and 4. Design principles 3.1.1, 3.1.2. Modifications 3.2.1, 2, and 4. Foundations 4.1.1, 2, 3, and 4. Walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.1 and 4. Windows, doors, and openings 4.3.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Entrances 4.4.1, 2, 4, and 5. Masonry 5.1.1, 2, 3, 4. Wood 5.2.1, 2, or 1 and 2. Metals 5.3.2. Paint 5.4.1, 2, 3, and 4. Contemporary materials 5.5.4. Statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the structure is a contributing resource in the tight weave development pattern. The project is within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVCs. The proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include in the primary AVC replacing front door with wood 4-panel door, replacing 4 vinyl windows with wood double hung 6/6 windows, installing 3 pair of wood shutters with hardware, and the primary and secondary AVCs installing tongue and groove, wood porch flooring, chamfering existing wood posts, replacing wood foundation infill with solid or lattice pattern brick and wood access door. In the secondary AVC, removing slat porch ceiling, removing metal door, relocating wood door and infilling door opening with wood siding. And then the tertiary AVC, replacing precast concrete steps, metal handrail and handicap ramp with wood steps and handrail, removing chain link fence and picket fence, installing wood 6-foot fence, removing AC unit and infilling with wood siding.
Okay. Whew. Thank you, Matt. You need a breather.
I do.
Michael, as applicant, do you have any further comments? Or
I think Matt's done a great job.
I think he has too. In fact, I commend you. That's a pretty good application for an accountant.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's right.
Just goes to show you, you don't have to have a whole lot of help to put together a easy to understand application. Okay, so with that said, commissioners, what kind of questions do we have?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
It's about the fence that's your next door neighbor, and you want to get rid of the picket fence and the chain fence. Is that the only part that you're going to be removing and putting with a 6-foot fence?
Do we need to look at a picture to help us?
No, because as your neighbor on the other side also have a wood fence for that?
There's a,
If you know, I'm just asking you to do just one part, right?
as you're looking at the back of the lot from the front, on the left side, there is a wood, like a Lowe's type wood, pressure treated fence that's up there. If it's mine, I'll take that down and put this fence up. If it's not mine, I'll put mine against it.
Okay.
And now take the wood fence across the back.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Then the chain link fence goes all the way across the back of the property up the right side.
So you're going to leave the back part of the backyard where the fence is that backs up to the Historical Society's garden? You're going to leave that alone?
I was going to put the fence across there.
You're going to put the 12, you're going to put the 6-foot fence across there too?
Just to enclose the whole backyard for privacy.
Okay, but you're going to leave the fence that
The neighbor on the left, that's his fence, so I'll just take it
right,
up to that.
I understand that. That doesn't bother me. What I'm asking about is the fence that you can see from the garden behind you, that divides
That's the
between
white
you.
picket fence?
Yeah, that divides you and the historical
I think
garden.
that's owned by the Historical
Okay,
Society.
that's all I need to know.
I'll put my fence on my little property
Thank you.
line in front of it.
Gotcha.
I'll
Thank
just,
you.
I'll just take down the chain link that's on
Okay.
my property.
Thank you.
So you're gonna take away the picket fence here and put in your 6-foot?
It's just one section. That picket fence is like 3 pieces stuck there, and it's
That's
kind of
fine.
random.
Actually, I think there's some
It
more
looks
of it
like you're gonna have
in a
2
pile
6-foot
behind the
fences back to
Preservation
back.
Foundation office.
Is that,
So in
I
this,
will put a fence on that side because he has his.
okay.
Oh, good.
George,
but he's showing this one because he meant,
isn't there more of that old picket fence like next to the trash cans at the Preservation Foundation office? You know, when you drive up, there's some old fence piled up back there.
Is that not belong to the
Yeah.
Historical Society?
I have no idea.
I think that's on their property.
But, you know, the foundation office is sort of the kitchen building of the Historical Society.
so he's showing this photograph to show the character of the fence he's intending to build.
Right.
I've got that. I've just,
Okay.
you know,
That's
because he's
fine.
saying the fence is so random.
Well, the white picket. on
Right,
the
is
side.
sort of
Yeah.
random.
Yep. So this was a 2 for a photo.
All right.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
You're gonna keep it, I'm trying to remember, as 2 apartments,
Yes, ma'am.
one up, one down? So you'll need those tall steps going up to the second apartment?
Yes.
Okay, and beside the tall steps, we've got that high screen again.
Are you talking
It's
about
a lattice, it's a,
That's coming down.
and is that on you or the next fellow?
That'll be on like a minor work application.
Oh,
Are you gonna take it down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's ugly. It's,
And there's a fence I was thinking of.
yeah, that's the.
Thank you. I just need clarification. I think you did a good job.
You okay?
Yes.
baby? All right.
That's it.
Any other questions? Again, it's a pretty straightforward application.
Mm-hmm.
We
This,
could-
this house needs an awful lot of love.
Oh, it does.
I'm gonna give it some love.
You've arrived just in time.
Yeah,
And I live real close.
yeah, I know, yeah.
So if we run out of questions,
Mhm.
someone want to venture a motion?
I do. Mr. Chair, I move that we find for the application of a certificate of appropriateness for 308 Metcalf to be not incongruous with the New Bern's Code of Ordinance, section 15-411 to 15-429, and New Bern's historic guidelines based with the following specific guidelines and finding of fact. The applicable guidelines are fences and garden walls 2.5.1, 2.513, 2.514. Design principles 3.1.1, 3.1.2. Modifications 3.2.1, 3.2.2, 3.2.4. Foundations 4.1 through 4.14. Walls, trims, and ornamentation 4.2.1, 4.2.4. Windows, doors, openings 4.3.1 through 4.3.6. Entrances from 4.4.1, 4.4.2, 4.4.4, 4.4.5. Masonry is 5.1.1 through 5.1.4. Wood 5.2.1, 5.2.2. Metals 5.3.2. Paint 5.4.1 through 5.4.4. Contemporary materials 5.5.4. And finding of fact is the structure is a contributing resource to the tight weave development pattern. The project is within the primary, secondary, and tertiary AVC. The proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. The zoning administrator and chief building official has reviewed this project and commented accordingly, and this project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
Well done.
Thanks.
Okay, so we've got a motion. Do we have a second? Got a second. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. That being the case, can we have a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness?
So moved.
Got a motion? Need a second? Thank
Second.
George.
Kristen and George.
Any discussion?
Second?
Fair enough.
I would just like to commend Mr. Rogers on what you're doing. It's
Me
a
too.
I do too.
Fantastic job you got planned.
Thanks.
I'm looking forward to it.
It'll look good when we get done.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm coming between.
We need to vote
So,
first.
so we got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Michael, you've got a
Thank
CEO
you very
in.
much, guys.
We appreciate it. You can send Dr. Ruth back in, and while she's coming, we'll need a motion to let her return to the meeting.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So we're not gonna wait for Dr. Ruth to get here, though.
You
Let's
did a
keep
nice
going.
job. Let's go.
What you got, Matt?
So the next, there is no old business. Oops.
Well,
Yeah.
don't we still have BTF hanging up there somewhere?
Go back to Louvered. We have no old business.
Joe's got a question about BTM's fence site, where we are with that.
Okay. I still need to contact the owners to call them to the next design review meeting.
May the 7th?
That would be the next one if that happens. But again, depends on their availability as well.
And if they choose not to be available?
I don't know what we do then.
And we've been waiting 3 years, so we need to do something.
Come rejoin us, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I've moved us on to old business,
Okay,
and you may take over from there.
okay,
We're talking about BTM.
okay.
and our
Oh,
fence
good. Well, no,
violation.
you carry on with that.
Okay.
And I have not yet contacted them, but that is to have them come to the owners.
So I guess Joe raises a legitimate question. The thing we probably ought to do is go ahead and summons them to come see us. And I guess we could then be prepared to take the next step if things don't go the way we'd like it to.
That's right. So I'll probably have to consult with the city attorney.
But we'll look forward to seeing those folks hopefully at our next design review meeting. And Matt, we can get another report from you.
Yep.
At that time, should they not appear.
And how are we labeling the people that are being summoned?
The owner.
They're not the owners. They're living there, but they're not the owners.
No, this is BTM, this is the Beartown Market,
Oh,
which faces South Front
to
Street.
get all of
and has
everything
Okay.
I said.
the beer garden.
The beer garden issue. I'm sorry.
This is beer garden.
You know, we've talked about this so much, I just assumed we all know what we're speaking about.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing we might want to do in your consulting of the attorney, the city attorney, is if they are not cooperative with us, what would be our next move?
Right.
So that we would be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Any other old business? All right. You want me to keep on going? Or?
Yes.
You can keep on going. Yeah.
Okay, you just pulled me back when you're
Okay,
ready.
I will. I'll rein you in.
I'm gonna keep motoring forward.
Okay, motor forward, that's
Okay.
fine.
So, item 7 on the agenda, HPC administrators
Are you
report.
gonna
You
skip
skipped
6?
one. You didn't go, you need general.
Oh, I'm sorry.
comments.
I sure did skip 6. See, she gives me a little authority and I go off the rails. So, new business, 221 East Front Street, presentation of demolition by neglect case.
And
So, on April 14th, Wednesday, April 14th, the demolition by neglect, prevention of demolition by neglect work group toured the site along with staff and the owner of the property, the new owner of the property. The intent to which to establish a list of repairs that need to be done to bring the house back into compliance with the ordinance. And so we prepared for ourselves a list of the various 10 different categories that exist in the ordinance as to what constitutes deterioration. But it does state that it includes, but is not limited to those 10. So this report includes the language from the ordinance, and then each of the 10 is shown here in italics and numbered, whereas the findings are bullet items here. So we have, for the first category of deterioration, deterioration of any exterior features so as to create or permit the creation of any hazardous or unsafe condition to life, health, or other property. We have these don't know if you want me to read through all the bullet items. This is actually 2, 3, and a little bit pages long.
Well, we can summarize that.
But we have, so a wastewater stack is rotted through. The front door, which might be an exit, is unusable. The rear entrance, which may also be another exit, is covered by a tarp. Flooring in addition on the flooring of the addition at the back of the house under the exit door is rotted through. Loose bricks on the roof near a parapet on the north are not anchored to the house. Loose bricks setting on, and one is hanging over the outer edge of the south parapet. The steps to the front door hazardous enough. There is a no trespass sign hanging across the entire length of the steps. It looks like this entrance is never used. 2-level rear porch posts, joists, ceilings, slats, and flooring are missing or disconnected. 2-level rear porch corner post, which is bent and out of alignment with true vertical, has been extended with a spliced or sistered pieces to bear directly on the ground. There's a downspout missing at the rear double porch, leaving collected water to concentrate splashing at the base of the corner post that is bearing on the soil. Steps to the rear double porch may be unsafe. There is some additional support shimmed under one of the steps, and the bottom has been blocked off by plywood. The portions of the double rear porch that still have flooring have a loose support member, loose and buckling floorboards, and missing handrail spindles. And lastly, the brick pier at the northwest corner of the single porch is tilting away from the building. I missed that, the building part. So that gives an idea of the dangerous stuff.
Okay.
So number 2.
You had to be there, Trey.
I do have photographs that we can peruse later if you want, and it may be illustrious anyway. So the next one is regarding deterioration of exterior walls, foundations, and other vertical supports that might cause leaning, sagging, whisking, or buckling. So we have many locations where the mortar, there's a significant loss of mortar in the joints. 2 of the columns that had supported the front porch, or actually the piers that had supported the front porch, are either collapsed or listing. There's actually one that was basically a pile of bricks that was obviously the pier, and some are just leaning and listing. So brick parapet on the, now we're at the top of the roof. Brick parapet on the north side exhibited loss of brick and buckling. The parapet on the south side exhibits mortar loss and several loose bricks sitting on the roof. I guess that's a repeat from above. Sill in the rear of the house visibly rotten and or missing. Near the back porch steps on the left side of the house, the brick foundation seems to be buckling, and the front porch pier at the front door is separating from the house. So those are the vertical supports. The next one is basically the horizontal members. That was just the vertical stuff. And the next one is flooring or floor supports, roofs, or other horizontal members. So we have floor supports for the front porch are missing. The entire front porch is missing. So the flooring is missing, the roof is missing. There are sills in several locations on the south side of the addition rotted through. There are lintels over 2 front upper windows that are cracked from top to bottom. The right one may be shifting out of the building. And there's a lintel over an access opening on the north side that is also cracked. Then we have regarding external chimneys, of which there were 4. There's one where it was identified that the chimney on the rear addition is missing most of its mortar. It was actually indicates the chimneys may be in pretty good condition compared to everything else. Number 5 is deterioration or crumbling of exterior plasters or mortars. So there's extensive deterioration of mortar joints, was also mentioned earlier. Top of the house, near the roof line on the right side, the bricks are crumbling, and on the ground is a pile of bricks that look like they fell from the roof. I believe that means the front right, top right corner, is that right?
Yes.
So that's the second time that's been mentioned, and then just many loose bricks throughout the walls of the house. 6 is ineffective waterproofing of exterior walls, roofs, and foundations. So that could include siding and things like that, but also includes broken windows or doors. So we have mortar joints that permit water infiltration. We have openings to crawl space and basement below the house are poorly covered with tarps or plywood, and at least 2 on the front are covered only with wood lattice. There's myriad broken windows on the front and sides of the house. I only observed 3 intact windows with all their glass panes. This one's highlighted yellow, sorry, but I wasn't sure if this was one thing or several, but plywood on the doors and tarp on the doors. Front, foundation in front of the house, under the front porch, tarp with opening and lattice board kept in place with a stick in 2 places, and plywood nailed in some windows of the left side of the house. Then there's top of the northeast corner is crumbled away with at least 7 courses, or at least 7 courses of brick missing from that corner. So that's, I think, the 3rd time that's been mentioned. This is still continuing with exterior walls. The front top middle window is missing 4 panes of glass and muntins, allowing for easy entry of water, insects, and flying animals. Several basement windows are missing and covered only with tarps, which are deteriorating, leaving easy entry of water, insects, and animals. Brick is missing under the sill of the front top middle window. Seals around pipes extending through the brick walls are missing. Single rear porch is entirely encased in tarps, leading to suspicion that the porch is otherwise not weather-tight. Rear porch water table trim boards are too short and falling off, leaving a hole at the northwest corner, leaving easy entry of water, insects, and animals. 7 is defective protection or lack of weather protection for exterior wall coverings. So this might be not necessarily the siding, but the paint on the siding, let's say. So it may be membranes and such. Including lack of paint or weathering due to lack of paint or other protective coverings. So all windows are lacking adequate paint. On the rear of the house, near the back steps on the left side of the house, siding has pulled away, leaving rotten wood beneath the exposed. So there's siding which is protecting the wood. So I don't know if that's the right category, but anyway, that's what's happening. Back steps, the door going into the house has a tarp covering. The tarp is in tatters. If there is a door there, it's not visible. On the south side, the asbestos shingles covering the original wood siding have fallen or are falling off, leaving the exposed wood siding to expedited deterioration, which in some areas have also fallen off, leaving holes in the exterior wall. 8 is rotting, holes, and other forms of decay. So the rear additions display rotten sills, corner boards, and siding, many foundation holes. Exterior wastewater pipe is split and rotting, or I'm sorry, external. So that's actually the wastewater vent stack. And shutters on the right side of the house over the windows are held together by rope. Gable and trim boards, fascia boards, soffit rim beams, and corner posts on the rear addition near the southwest corner are rotten and deteriorating, creating holes. Ignore the blank. Deterioration of exterior stairs, porches, handrails, windows, and door frames, cornices and tablatures, wall facings, and architectural details that causes delamination, instability, loss of shape and form, or crumbling. As mentioned above, front porch flooring and roof are missing. Support columns, piers, I think in this case, are unstable or collapsed, and the north brick parapet crumbling. The back of the house on the right side, the porches are missing. Gaping hole where the porch should be, and holes in the brick in front of the house where supports were to hold a front porch roof and floor. 10. Heaving, subsidence, or cracking of sidewalk steps or pathways. Pathway from the steps to the sidewalk is covered over by grass or weeds. I was even wondering if there was even a sidewalk there. So it could be just missing. The ramp between the front steps and the front door are in questionable repair. Rear steps recently and inappropriately added to the house. Additional items, so this was the items above and beyond, right? The tree at the northeast corner is damaging the face of the house and possibly the foundation, needs an arborist review. Tree at the northern access opening is possibly damaging the foundation, again, need arborist review. And lastly, handrails on the modern rear porch steps are missing spindles and are inconsistent with the guidelines. That could actually be added to the dangerous list.
Right.
So,
Well, that's quite a comprehensive list, and just to remind the board, obviously the Carlson House has been on our demolition by neglect list for some time.
30.
I want to say it's been probably 15 years since I was inside, and it was just as much a problem then as it is now. As you know from previous reporting to the board, there has been a change of ownership. The HPC is partnering with the Preservation Foundation, and in simplistic terms, the roles are that we're responsible for identifying the repairs to the exterior, as we would do under our Prevention of Demolition by Neglect ordinance normally. The Preservation Foundation will be taking care of work needed on the interior, and also there are some plans to hopefully get some protective covenants on whatever historic fabric can be salvaged from within. So that's kind of the big picture of where we are. I'm going to send around.
Is the house going to still stand for a while?
Well, we're surprised it is. We're still trying to remove our tenant.
She's still there?
Well, she's still got her stuff there. She's left for the winter.
According to the new owner,
Ashley.
the day that we were there was supposedly, according to the court, her last day.
Yeah, and so I've got a little update on that. But before I get to it, essentially the approach we're taking and why we're talking about this tonight, I've sent around our procedural steps for prevention of demolition by neglect. And there are a few gray areas because we actually have gone through this entire procedure in its entirety and affected a change of ownership. But the new owner still has the obligation to deal with the repairs that the previous owner did not make. And so we are on essentially step 2. So our agenda is somewhat narrow. We will not be petitioning the building inspector tonight, but what we are doing is Matt's gone through this list. It's very detailed, and we need to send that list to the property owner so they know what their obligation is to get off the list. And so with that said, are there any questions, additions, or deletions about the items that we've reviewed here tonight on the screen?
Well, I do want to say that the owner was very interested in what we had to say.
Good.
When he was there to let us on the property.
Yeah, I've not met the new owner.
He really wants to do anything he can to make the house.
Dreamer.
Oh, I know.
He's a lovely dreamer.
He is. But he listened to what we said, and when we pointed things out that were wrong, he said,
Good.
I'll
Okay, I didn't realize he was there for the
the whole time.
observation.
Well, he has, and the city have just toed and froed with getting her out, and the city threatened to cut off all utilities and this and that and the other thing, and I think clearly there's a hoarding issue involved here.
Yes,
And because I have worked in minimum housing, I always say that hoarding is mental illness made 3D.
Okay.
Which, you're kind of seeing the inside of that person's brain, more or less. So it's just been excruciating. So he's probably been a little nicer than he absolutely had to be, but he was trying,
Yeah.
So I think it starts his clock at kind of a different place.
Well, and we can talk about that in a second.
Okay.
In terms of the the list of requirements. Do we have any additions or deletions? I have one suggestion, and Matt, my only suggestion is where you've repeated an item to eliminate, pick one category to list it and eliminate the others, just to save us or the applicant from the confusion of how many different pipes there are, for instance, that he needs to repair on the outside of the building.
Or how many times you have to repeat the same spot.
Yeah.
I mean, repair the same spot.
And also, I noticed you had a few other syntax, kind of corrections. And so if we're okay, we'll go ahead and authorize Matt to get that letter to the owner.
I have a couple of concerns, observations. I understand that all of the problems with that property really relate to the past owner, the Carlsons. I was somewhat surprised, although not completely surprised, when Matt said, well, now we have to start all over because we have a new owner. Well, now you said step 2. Well, the last time I went through this list represented 180 days of nothing happening until the chief building inspector says it should be on the demolition by neglect list. So that means another 6 months. My concern, and this is in part because when we were there, the new owner was there, and he said that he spent the last 2 years talking to Jessie Carlson about buying the property. She finally called him when she was notified that there was going to be a sheriff's sale, and she said, I'll sell it to you if you're still interested. So effectively, we've gone through 30 years of the city taking zero action other than threatening her. And he facilitated what may be salvaging the property by his relationship with Jessie Carlson, which had nothing to do with the city. I mean, he went through another path. And had he not purchased the property, what would be happening now?
Yeah, so.
Well, my concern is that the city has taken no forceful, direct action in 30 years.
No, I'm going to have to disagree with that characterization. Over the course of 30 years, now granted that may be longer than would be acceptable, but the city has taken several actions over that period of time. For example, the issuing a work order for the property, which is a legal proceeding and a legal filing, and as a result of that and other actions coming to the head finally of bringing it up, first of all, to a sheriff's sale. I think that was in September, October, November, somewhere in the fall. And then that was staved off by a relative. And then when that failed, that sale failed, then brought back again by the city to the sheriff's sale. It basically caused that purchase in the end. So, that characterizing the city as having not done anything would be incorrect.
Well, I mean, his view is that he facilitated the purchase without the city, that it was his relationship with Jessie.
But that's true. That's true.
My question is, with what we're seeing, the house is really not habitable. I mean, it's...
Correct.
Are there no guidelines in New Bern that say you can't live in a house that is not habitable?
Oh, there are. It's
Oh,
called
there
minimum
are.
housing code.
Excuse me?
Minimum housing code.
Okay.
And maybe there are others.
John
Why-
Clark condemned the property in 2000 because she was a hoarder. Okay? And basically what he said is that there were things that had to be done. Number one, all the garbage had to be removed from the house because it was literally floor to ceiling. Okay? That was number one. Number two, the electrical system had to be updated because it was dangerous, and the roof had to be fixed because it was leaking. My understanding was either the city or the Historic Foundation that put up the money for the roof and the electrical. Between the two of them, that's how the electrical got fixed and that's how the roof got fixed. And she did in fact get rid of the garbage. So the house was never formally condemned so that she had to vacate.
So it's been condemned now by virtue of the sale and the transaction, and it needs a certificate of occupancy before it could be inhabited again. If that answers your question.
So where are we with this process? Because a lot of this we've gone over before. Where are we?
We are. I think we're at step 2.
Okay.
And so Matt's going to send the letter out, and then at our next public hearing, regular meeting, Matt, if you could come back to us, there's a schedule that's part of the sales agreement. And it has a number of items, some of which I think you've already issued, maybe a minor for some tree removal, or you're working to issue a minor for some tree removal. There are a number of dates there, and so when you send the letter out, I'd ask you to schedule a meeting with Ashley as well to go through the requirements, and then also to have him update this Exhibit A with the dates. It's my understanding that Ms. Carlson says she will finally be out of the property by
April 30th.
3rd of May.
No, I think it was April 30th.
Well, 3rd of May, and so
3rd of May?
we've got an interior inspection scheduled for the 3rd of May.
Ooh, that'd be
And
I
so
thought it was April the 15th.
It was, but,
Oh, okay.
but again, you know, it's a bit of a difficult situation when your previous property owner hasn't exactly vacated the property. And so, but nobody's seen the inside of that house yet, other than Miss Carlson. And I don't even think Ashley's been.
He's never been in it.
So,
Poor baby.
yeah, it's bound to be eye-opening. It was eye-opening when I was there last.
Yeah.
Wish him well.
Really?
So let's get those dates adjusted based on our most current information, and if you report back to the board. And so I think what that will do is that'll satisfy step 3, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Because essentially we should be able to save a good bit of time, Dr. Joe, because by virtue of purchasing the property and agreeing to have our input be part of what needs to be repaired to get off the list, it's just a formality of getting the dates adjusted. And as that goes forward, as I read these rules of procedure, as long as Ashley is meeting his dates, and you know, there are provisions in the contract, if he cannot meet the dates, he needs to come back to Matt and explain why. And we can give Matt the authority maybe to, you know, make some minor adjustments, but maybe if it came to a major adjustment, Matt would probably want to come back to the full board to let us weigh in on whether it should be permissible. And so it's at some point, should things go off track, that's when we have the building inspector initiate his work.
Okay.
So the intent behind the rules of procedure I've given you is when you've got a willing property owner, as long as they're working with us and they're accomplishing what they need to be accomplishing on a schedule, there is no need to petition the building inspector. And so hopefully, you know, all this will follow through as we all want it to, and that includes the new property owner. They'll address the items that we just reviewed, and then they'll be off. You know, we'll verify them, have our committee verify them, and if they're satisfactorily taken care of, we'll remove them from the demolition by neglect list.
He's not on the list.
Sir?
He's not on the list.
Yeah, he is.
Well,
That property is.
The property was on the list. My understanding from this procedure is that we have to go through all these steps. Now, let's assume Ashley is a willing participant and he's making all of these changes. That's in order to prevent the property from being listed under the Prevention by Demolition Neglect Ordinance.
There's still $600,000 worth of fines hanging on him, and that
Well,
just because he acquired the property doesn't mean it comes off the list. He's just responsible for fulfilling the Carlson's obligations plus our update, because it's been more than 10 years since we've been out there. He's responsible for doing all that to get it off the list.
Right, the building inspector has to formally say that it's no longer on the list.
And if I'm not mistaken, he has sort of signed an agreement, hasn't Ashley, with the foundation?
Well,
George, is that correct?
It's part of a purchase agreement.
Right,
If
so
anybody wants to see it, this guy had a.
Right, that's what I said,
And I didn't bring.
Joe's-
another copy.
We've distributed that before. And
right, but so he's contractually
Same thing.
obligated as well.
No, I understand that, and
Well,
I'm not questioning him. I'm looking at the procedure that we followed to put a property on the demolition by neglect list.
Right.
And according to these steps, we get to a point where we invoke the chief building inspector to do their inspection, and if the chief building inspector concurs with what we have observed, meaning, and things have not been changed. So we're looking at a property that is being actively neglected, if you will. Then the chief building inspector will determine whether this is going to be on the demolition by neglect list. We make a recommendation.
I think it's the other way around.
Well, I mean, as I was reading the procedure, everything seems to defer back to the chief building inspector.
We'll be up for enforcement.
So, I mean, that's where my confusion comes in, that's all.
And so
And I assume Ashley is good and true to his own word.
So
He just may get surprised by how much it really is going to involve.
yeah, well, we expect that. So step 5, for instance, you know, and I don't want to use this as an example because it was already on the list and it's still there, but say this was another project which we may be talking about on our agenda this evening. You know, at step 5, we could hear these findings like we have tonight and decide that that's not sufficient to be list worthy, in which case the chief building inspector would never become involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I say it's up to us as a board and our work group to essentially identify properties at risk and then put them on the list. And then I think, Dr. Joe, the better way to look at the chief building inspector is he's our muscle. We send them out to do all the dirty work in terms of attempting to negotiate with a property owner who has already demonstrated they're not willing to negotiate with us.
I'm just looking at steps 7 and 8.
Yeah.
You know, it says the chief building inspector performs a formal inspection of the property based on the DBN petition.
Right.
Findings are reported to the HPC and added to the property's DBN folder. Then it says if the formal inspection determines DBN. That's not us. That's the chief building inspector determines. That's how I read it. We make recommendations, and I think that's fine. I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, but he's enforcing what's going on.
That's true. but-
Issues a writ and notifies the property owner within 15 days. So that's what he's trying to say. The building inspector enforces what we've asked him to do.
Oh, I understand that. What I'm
Well,
saying, though,
what
is
did
that
you
if it says here, if the formal inspection determines demolition by neglect, the formal inspection is done by the chief building inspector, not us. We make recommendations to the chief building inspector. So effectively, the chief building inspector is the one who determines whether it qualifies as a property that is at risk, belongs on the list. At least that's the way I read number 8. Now, maybe I'm wrong.
I think in step 6, I believe it is, there's a point at which when the HPC files a petition to the chief building inspector, the administrator adds the property to a list of potential demolition by neglect.
Right.
So that's a different list.
And again, the word potential is very important.
Yep.
Right.
I see where you get your interpretation.
Yeah.
You know, does it make a substantive difference in how we proceed? No, I don't
No.
think so.
No.
But in other words, in a sense, it's not our call.
Right, and that's where I was saying it's the building inspector who adds and subtracts things from the demolition by neglect list.
Right.
I stand corrected.
You know, and then there's another 30 to 45 days before a hearing will be held. And so in terms of all these steps, while they all include very important statements that we need to follow,
So,
when you start to add up timeline for a recalcitrant individual, not for someone who's compliant, but for someone
Right.
who resists, like
Right.
Jesse Carlson, okay?
right,
Then you're looking at 9 months before anything gets done,
that's right. But in
which
this
I think is
particular-
dangerous to a house that's already been neglected.
But she is now in a place where she has to move out.
Right, she no longer
right.
matters, she just has to.
Right,
decide.
right,
So I
and
think
there is.
Joe is talking about another case.
Right, and so because I've worked in minimum housing, from a practical standpoint, dealing with, and Jesse's not a one-off.
No.
Hoarding is, more widespread than anyone would ever possibly believe and completely democratic. That's one of the, it's like alcoholism. There is no one more recalcitrant than a hoarder. And in Greensboro, I put together a task force because it's such a multifaceted problem. It's not a problem of the building, it's a problem of the building, it's a problem of adult protective services, it's a problem of the fire department, it's a problem of the EMS, it's a problem, and so you actually need all those forces to come together at once to really bear on somebody. I mean, didn't they just find a person, a Hollywood set designer, dead under her hoard in the last couple of weeks? I think so. So, somebody famous, like an Oscar nominee. So with that, that's why I said it's mental illness made 3D. I mean, somebody doesn't have used Publix bags full of trash stacked to the ceiling unless something's way, way wrong. It's and so it takes that long, Joe, to get someone who is a hoarder to a place where you're going to get them out of the house.
Here's what I suggest. If we'd like to revise these timeframes, that let's take a look at what the changes might be. And, we can consider that at a future time.
That's fine.
But
All right.
So we are now on, with this house, which is what we're discussing, so we're now on step 2.
Yes.
That's where we're going.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And Matt's going to report back to us next meeting
Okay.
with a new timeline for accomplishing repairs.
Okay. All right.
And maybe by then Ash will have her out.
So,
hope you'll say
so
that
if there's some tweaking of this procedure, then your committee, not committee, what am I supposed to, work group.
Work group, yes.
Your work group at some point is gonna look at that.
Yes.
Well, I'd like the prevention of demolition by neglect work group to look at it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes,
Okay.
that's right.
Yes, okay. Okay, all right.
Tripp's not on that committee.
Yeah.
Or,
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Everybody else is.
Okay, so we finished with item 6A then? We know where we are with that?
I think so.
Okay. All right. So we're on 7A, 104 Johnson Street, that's been filed.
right, so I just wanted to report on that briefly. Yesterday, well, a few days ago, the owner and I, or the owner's legal representative and I, Mr. French and I, coordinated a meeting at the site yesterday. And so I was able to peruse the entire exterior of the site with him and Jennifer Knight together. And I took many pictures, and I created this morning, a the handwritten version of what I showed earlier for the 221 house, so the 10 items. And so the next step is to then submit that list to the owner and work out a schedule with them. So he did let me know that he's now progressed to the next phase or the next step of the Rebuild NC program, which is a funding source for the repairs. And so that next phase is that the program will be inspecting the house themselves for their purposes. And then the first inspection results in several other more specialized inspections after that. So there's several months involved with that back and forth on the state side. Of course, Rebuild NC is a state program. And so there will be, the schedule for the repairs of that will take a considerable amount of, several months at least, before it will even be possible to get started, because they won't have any money until that program provides them the money. So that's the status.
How does that figure into our guidelines? In other words, if we turn this over to the North Carolina rebuilding, whatever that is, how does that fit to what we require?
I don't know what you mean.
In other words, do our guidelines include waiting months and months for the state to get people to come and look at it, and
So,
months and months?
I mean, terminology-wise,
Yeah.
the guidelines don't say anything about any of this. It's actually the ordinance and the procedures manual that dictate how this moves forward. And the funding source is rarely identified except in cases of financial hardship, and then there's a whole special procedure for that when you get that far along in the process. But the key, and I think as Tripp has kind of alluded to, is to make the schedule work for both the city and the owner. It's kind of pointless, in my opinion, to establish an unrealistic schedule that isn't possibly going to be able to be
That's
adhered
exactly
to.
my point.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there is, however, going to be a point at which it's untenable, right? You can't say, well, 5 years from now, I'm going to have money to start construction or repairs or whatever. That's not reasonable. So there has to be reasonableness on both sides.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next item B is a report on the COA's issued, the majors and the minors, which we know about. And then you have an extension. This is about the marina down at the end of East Front Street.
Right, we
Okay.
did that.
So we've done that.
Last month.
Right. So other items and updates. I have one for that. Does anybody else have anything under that item,
I do.
under item D? You do? Go ahead.
Well, my one is regarding the resignation of James Woods. As you, I hope you all received the email informing you of that, but we regret that he has decided to do that. He's been a valuable member of the commission, and we appreciate the work that he's done with the commission and for our community. We do, however, have to fill the vacancy. He was just reappointed last May, so he has so there's a 2-year vacancy, and I believe Alderwoman Best is working on that.
Okay.
We have for our CLG, our Certified Local Government Status for the historic preservation. We're required to fill that vacancy within, now 60 or 90 days, I forget which it was, but a certain amount of time to fill that vacancy in order to maintain our status.
And there'll be other terms that are coming up too.
Yes, so there's two, or three actually, whoops. Christian, George, and Joe, all three are coming up in the next few months. George and Joe, your terms expire, according to my records, 5/15.
I think that's accurate.
And Christian is 6/26.
Close.
So next month we should probably, well, you should probably contact the person who appointed you, and George, that's Mr. Odom, and Joe, that's also Mr. Odom, and then for Christian, that's Kinsey. So
John Kinsey?
yeah.
And they can all three be re-up one?
Let me see. Yes.
Okay.
They've each only served one term so far.
And do we have requirements on those appointees like they do with the developmental, Parks and Rec, that so many need to have this much skill or degrees in this? Yeah.
So it's all related to historic preservation.
Yeah.
Okay, my item is something we've been working on for the, well, mine and Christine. Item is the Preservation Commission's awards. We asked for some information from you all at the last meeting. That information has been included here. And those were the only items that you all had suggested that we do something about. And so we present this document to you, I guess, to be approved by us. Is that what we need to do? Because we need to kind of run this through the ranks to you, and then who does it go to?
Well, eventually it ends up at the alderman,
At the
so
alderman, do we need
it's
to-
likely that it can go just directly to them.
It doesn't need to go through, who's
Well, I would consult with my superior to see how it would work through, but
and do we need to show it to the lawyer as well, the city attorney? Do we need to show it to him before it gets to the board of
well,
aldermen?
they
She's
might
right
recommend
here.
that. They might recommend that, and I think you've had one conversation with them
Yes,
already.
I have.
correct?
I have with them. Yes, I've talked with them. So I just want to make sure that we alert all the people we need to alert before it gets to the Board of Aldermen. I have sent a copy to Sabrina Bringle, since she is in the downtown section.
Well, I think it would facilitate things if we had a motion that approved the document as it's submitted tonight.
Okay.
And that way it can officially be disseminated
Okay.
from us. And I
Okay.
think that would move things along.
Move things along, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Can I have a motion for approval of the document?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Okay. So Christian and I will work with our administrator here about who are the other people that we maybe all need to send it to at the same time. Because in the long run, we're going to be asking a little bit of money from the city for the plaques. That will do. I will buy the trophy. But just a little bit of money from the city they're going to have to give us for that. So, okay, we will work together to move this along. Okay, that was the items under D. Does anyone here have a comment they'd like to make that they haven't already made tonight? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
We're adjourned.